Because I can't. Well, thanks for joining us once again here on the ShrimpsNet. You know the format by now. There's one idiot from the Trust in yours truly. There's another, the voice of reason from the Trust is Joel, who's with us tonight. We always have one in the know person from the boardroom. And tonight it's the return of Sir Roderick of Taylor. Welcome along, Rod.
You're welcome, David.
And our special guest from the club, shedding some light on what has become a strange but specialist position at all EFL clubs. I can't even speak. It's welcome along to our new video analyst, Harry Taylor. Harry, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. So we'll start, as we always do, with a review of the games that have gone. I'll take my glasses off because I don't need to read anything now. I'll come to Joel first. Accrington Stanley. Last Saturday, yet again, another game that lived up to the billing, Joel. A bit of a contentious sending off, but 2-2 and a red card by half time. It was all happening, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that first half really was quite something. I think it was very open, and I don't think that was too surprising. You know, you look at the team that Accrington have kind of been, they are quite attacking, but also a little bit ropey in defence. And you know, that came to the fore. And obviously we scored a couple of good goals. Obviously we conceded a couple that probably weren't so good, obviously. I know Gibson had the most uncharacteristic 25 minutes, I think, and it's something I'm kind of comfortable mentioning about him because he usually is so unbelievably consistent and solid. It was just so out of character, but the way he bounced back in the second half and on Tuesday night has been fantastic, and obviously really does show the kind of character and the player he is. But yeah, it was just crazy. And then the red card. I think John Coleman even admitted this. It was a bit soft, and it probably ruined the game a little bit because it was really good fun. It might not have been very good for the heart, especially the hearts of either manager, but it was really exciting. And then when that sending off happens, obviously we have to kind of play in a certain way. We have to be a bit tighter and maybe a bit more conservative at times. But saying that, obviously, Stephen Robinson goes 4-3-2, quite aggressive still, as aggressive as you can be with 10 men. And while we go a goal behind, I thought we marshalled the game really well, and they didn't have loads of chances. Carl Leatherman didn't really have loads of amazing saves to make. And then, you know, we get, I think, our reward for a lot of hard work in that half, which was Toons forcing an error from their player, dodgy, God knows what he was doing, and, you know, Cole's in. And Cole, at the minute, you know, I just feel so confident whenever he gets the ball anywhere near goal.
Well, it doesn't have to be near goal, does it?
I know he has this on Tuesday. He doesn't even have to be inside the area.
No, it's crazy, isn't it? So I want to touch on the sending off because obviously it became clear on Saturday night that everybody who was either in the Barticard or in the Accrington end thought it was a definite sending off, and everybody on the Berlin Wall or in the main stand thought it was a soft sending off. From what you were stood in the Barticard, you know, I was to the right. Are you to the right or to the left, Joel?
Oh, I was in the right and Lord stand.
Oh, you're in the right and Lord?
Yeah, I'm in there. But
okay. So you're in the right and Lord. And everybody in the Barticard stood there and went, well, that's red. Because he was two-footed and he was off the floor. And everybody at the Accrington end was like, I spoke to a couple of Ackie lads after and they were like, yeah, we thought it was a red. But because it looked like it. And that's, you have to bear in mind, the ref was looking from the same angle. So to him, it looks like he's two-footed and off the floor. But when you see it on the TV from the side, it didn't look anything like it, did it?
No, and, you know, from my angle, I saw 2 feet kind of go in, but it didn't look like a very aggressive challenge at all. And then when I see it from the TV angle from behind, it really doesn't look like a sending off. And obviously, when the highlights went on Quest later, the pundits there really didn't think it was a sending off either. And, you know, that's from, and the angle that they've had is that TV angle from kind of behind the incident. So, you know, it's one of those contentious ones. I kind of, the way I kind of think of it is, you know, how in the Premier League, if with how VAR works in the Premier League, if like there's a borderline decision, it doesn't overturn it either way. Like, yeah. I think if it hadn't been a sending off and say there was VAR involved, I don't think they would have overturned it to one, and vice versa. It was just quite borderline, I think, really.
Well, I think he put the, well, I mean, since then, obviously, we decided not to appeal it, so that's fair enough. It's one of those things. So I'll come to you, Harry. You're the video analyst. What did you think of the sending off?
Yeah, I mean, well, I was at the same angle as the TV footage, so for me, it just looked like a 50-50. I wasn't expecting any sort of. It was quite strange the way the atmosphere was. No Accrington fans were really chanting for a red card. It just sort of seemed quite quiet. I was just expecting maybe a yellow for both, and then off they go. But yeah, I mean, we were really shocked. Yeah, we did end up actually appealing it, but yeah, it got turned down. So
Turned down, yeah. Which the person that I spoke to at the club said, yeah, we'll try appealing it, but we don't think anything will happen because they back the refs, which they do. But there you go. Rod, what was your thoughts?
I thought it was very harsh, David. At the time, I wasn't absolutely sure, but looking at it again, and we had a discussion after the game about it. I think that the comments from Ian Holloway and the Quest team made us look at it again and put the appeal in. I feel, looking back on it, and you watch it through, that the ref went for his pocket for a yellow, and he did give the Akilad a yellow, and I thought he was going to give 2 yellows. It did, from memory, did consult with the linesman or the assistant referee, as we call them these days, and whether that swayed his decision. But I thought it was a really harsh red. And the Aki players, there was a little bit going on, but it wasn't over the top, I didn't feel.
No, and I have to say, there has been. It's something that I picked up on earlier in the season, and in fact, there is now a preponderance yet again of 5 and 6 players surrounding the ref, trying to influence his decision. And I posted on the forum this week that I think we should be returning to a sort of rugby union, rugby league style, where it's only the captain can go anywhere near the referee and speak to him, because I think they can influence it. And credit to Aki, there were only a couple of people doing it.
But it didn't happen immediately, David, did it?
No, it didn't.
It didn't happen immediately. That's the point I'm making. There's a bit of a delay there, and then it was there.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, in the end, everybody, you've got to be happy with the point, haven't you, Joel?
No, very happy. After kind of, so I think especially after the way kind of we had a few games last season that were kind of, turned against us really by a red card, and sometimes quite a dubious red card. It was nice that on this occasion we were able to hold out, and I think we did it in quite a positive way. Obviously, with that kind of 4-3-2, we had Jonah Younger coming on, causing a bit of just getting up there and getting in their faces a bit, and overall I thought it was really, really impressive performance, because like I said, I don't think Accrington had a ton of really good chances, and then for Cole to get that goal in the last 10 minutes, sends us all home happy.
Well, from my point of view, I thought justice was done because there was Coley's post match where he was saying that Cole Stockton was fouling Michael Nottingham all the time, and I'm like, I actually did raise my eyebrows at that. I went, I know you're one-sided, Coley, and I know, but I was like, Michael Nottingham was trying to turn Cole inside out, wasn't he? So I just posted on that one. I said I think that was 6 or 1.5 dozen of the other, to be honest. And the great thing about Cole is, and I'm going to mention my missus here, Sally, because Sally said on Tuesday night, she went, doesn't matter who kicks him, doesn't matter how many times. And like the other night, he got completely shirt taken off his back, and we got a corner when it should have been a penalty. And Sally just said, he never gets riled. He just shuts up and gets on with it. And that's the fantastic thing about Cole. Nobody can wind him up, isn't it?
He's a very honest lad, isn't he? A very honest player. And maybe he could buy a free kick or a penalty or two, but he just gets on with his job. So, and what an amazing start to the season he's had. Absolutely fabulous.
Oh, absolutely. And while we're talking about Cole, it's an interesting stat that's come out tonight, which somebody has beaten us to it. I'm surprised you haven't got that one, Joel, to be honest. But we've scored more goals from open play than any other team in all 4 divisions, 14, which is fantastic. But the one thing I wanted to mention tonight was how many of Cole's goals have been in the 6-yard box? Because I think there's only one. And that was the tap-in against Shrewsbury. Everything else has been at least 12 yards out, if not 20 yards out. Every time he shoots, it seems to be going in. It's fantastic.
And like the Ipswich game, David, winning the ball and taking it on, and he scored some special goals, hasn't he?
He has. And that prompts the question that while we're on it, obviously, there's when it's in the Daily Mirror and all the sports pages saying he's the top scorer in Europe. This is basically, you know, I'm going to throw it out there. Sheffield United 1.5 million January. There you go. Because that's, you know, somebody like that is going to be looking at him thinking, well, he's the man, isn't he? He's the man. If you
David, calm down.
But if you think Max Watters went for $1 million from Crawley to Cardiff, then Cole's a division higher. So there you go. That's all.
But what's Cole Stockton worth to us right now is worth a ton of goals. He's enjoying his football. He likes to be where he is. Let's just settle it and let him get on with his job.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm not getting ahead of myself. It's all the press that are just saying, oh, you know, and it's just like, oh, calm.
You don't believe what you read in the papers, David. I don't believe that for a minute.
No, I can't read. So there you go. Right, Lincoln on Tuesday night. Lincoln arrived, obviously playoffs last season, lost a couple of players, but signed quite a few, and particularly a couple of good lads. One on loan from City. They already had Adelarkin, who proved in the first 15 minutes that he's got a clean pair of heels. I think he showed Gibbo down the right hand side and left him for dead. But then Gibbo played him really, really well, and after that he didn't really do much. But they arrived for me. As you anybody read Shrimps online, he does an absolutely fantastic preview of the game. But the person that he got to do it from Lincoln was probably the most one-eyed person I've ever read. Oh, we're brilliant. We score goals, and there's absolutely no chance and we should be beating teams like Morecambe. And it's like,
love it.
Exactly. And I thought, all you got to do is show that guy's speech to the team, and that's exactly what happened, Joel, isn't it? For me, that was our most complete performance because we looked like we were starting to gel.
Yeah, I think that there was some, for me, the real positives from that performance, and probably that kind of little trio in front of the defence with Toombs, O'Connor and Wootton. I thought O'Connor had his best game for us. I think he's been really good for us since he signed, and last night he was particularly, not last night, a couple of nights ago, he was particularly good. Obviously, Wootton has that under-hit back pass, but aside from that, he was pretty damn solid and gets his goal. And it seems like they're getting a real understanding now, which is good and really encouraging after Lavelle leaving, because I think part because we do feel, I think the fan base as a whole felt quite connected to Lavelle because he's done a lot of work in the community and his dad played for the club, so I think it did, among a lot of people, it seemed like there was quite almost an apocalyptic sense when Lavelle left. But really, like, Wootton's come in, he's done a really good job. Toombs did some great stuff in midfield, covered so much ground. I don't know how he does it at his age. You know, it's just amazing. And yeah, it was a tight game. I think they have like the lowest in like the kind of the least intense press in the league off some of the numbers. I'm not just trying to impress Harry there, but yeah, and that showed. They kind of sat back, and it was tough to break them down. But in the end, it takes a little bit of magic from Cole, and I think at the moment we can count on them to do that. And then a good set piece goal, which was a kind of nice way to cap off. I think we'll probably get into this more later, but this latest kind of block of 5 games, we started this block of 5 games worrying about set pieces, and you know, and we were shipping so many from them, and we've ended it with a set piece goal.
Hey, that rounds it off nicely, doesn't it? So, what are your thoughts on the game the other night, Harry? Like I said, for me, the most complete performance. We've got 19 new signings, and it looked to me the other night like everybody knew the role and everybody doing the job. And even when we were under the cosh, because they've got some good lads. Fiorini on loan from City looked good. Couple of shots, Carl Leathern, good saves. But it was a complete performance for me. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, completely agree. I think as a staff, we all agreed that it's one of the best games we've played. Lincoln are a good footballing side, and we knew they'd have most of the ball. But as it turns out, we sort of were able to dictate play. I think we were quite good with our patience. We didn't force things too much. And yeah, as you said, the team's gelling really well. I mean, Cole's just been unbelievable. But I think we defended really well. Kyle was great, as you said. And everything went to plan, really. Yeah, we were really happy with it.
Looking at it, Rod, we in the cold light of day, and this is only my opinion, but we were missing our 2 best fullbacks that you'd pick every game. obviously Ryan Cooney and Greg Lee, and yet Ryan McLaughlin, and obviously we know Gibbo can do a job. Ryan McLaughlin, I thought he settled in really, really well. I wasn't sure at first, but then he kept giving corners away because he kept stopping the crosses. You can't ask more than that, can you?
Yeah, I think you make a good point there, Devin. And you know, as you said, how many new signings? It just takes time to gel, doesn't it? But I would echo your thoughts that was a really solid, gritty, complete performance. I've got to say, I was somewhat relieved when the second went in, and a particular mention for Toombs. Really, you know, we've had a Bentley, and now we've got a Rolls Royce in this guy. He's absolutely superb.
You thought of that one before you came on, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Well, I'm going to go back to him as always and refer to him as the Vieira of the Bay, because he was majestic the other night.
Absolutely. And you know, you can see this confidence coming out of you know, a lot of these lads now, and you know, Cole Stockton in particular. Strikers need to score goals, don't they? And they live off that, and they take energy from that, and I think that's really, really obvious at the moment with Cole.
And obviously, we know we brought Jonah on, who did absolutely brilliantly. And as you alluded to, he came and put himself about a bit, didn't he? On the Accrington game and the Lincoln game. And I thought it was quite telling that Michael Appleton's post-match was like, Morecambe are a big side. And I'm like, are we? Are we a big side? Our fullbacks are midgets, you know, but no. But I thought it was funny that he thought us of a big side, and he wasn't. I don't think he was expecting us to play quite as much football as we did, to be honest. What do you reckon, Joel?
No, yeah, I think we're definitely a smaller side than last season. I don't think that this side don't feel that big compared to some of the players we had in last season. But, you know, I think obviously in that last 15 minutes we chuck on Delaney, who wins the header for that set piece. But before, you know, O'Connor and Mutton are the biggest for centre backs at this kind of level. They're not massive. You know, Cole's, you know, physical, but he's not really, really giant. So, like, yeah, I think at the end of the day, like this, it's League One. You know, there is going to be an element of physicality to a lot of how teams play. It's not just us. You know, at some ends of the scale, you've got kind of Gilliam, who are kind of even more kind of reliant on that physicality. But I think we marry the two things quite nicely, really. I think, you know, you do see us play some nice stuff, and we can go at teams like that. And I think what's come out in these last few games is us playing through the wingers a little bit more and looking quite good through that. But then also, if we need to, we can hit it long to Stockton, and you can hold the ball up like he does so well. So, you know, we've got a few different ways of kind of breaking teams down, whether that's more physical or more kind of play on the deck.
It is a good one, because of all the teams we've played, and obviously having seen all of the games, the side that I think we're probably most akin to, both size-wise and athleticism-wise, is Rotherham. Because I was impressed with Rotherham, because they were all quick, they were all big, they were all quick, they all got stuck in. And I think that's the way that Stephen wants to play. He wants to be physical, but he also wants to play a bit. But so it seems to be working. So basically, 2 games. The Crew game last week, 2 wins and a draw. As you were saying, Joel, the second of the group of 5 comes to an end, and it's been pretty positive.
Yeah, really positive. I think, you know, I think it was 6 points for survival, 7 points in mid-table, and 8 points for around the kind of playoffs, and we've had 7 points in those first 2 blocks, so 7 points each in those first 2 blocks. So, you know, mid-table, I think realistically, I think that was my kind of upper hopes, and so far we're kind of pulling that off.
True enough, and as we were talking in the Barty card the other night, we've got that many people to come back from injuries and suspension, and we're going to need them. We are going to need them as pitches get heavier and the weather gets worse. There's going to be more strains, pulls, more yellow cards for silly tackles, etc., etc. So we're going to need everybody to gel, but obviously that's for another day. Right, I'll come to you now. Harry, thanks for joining us. As I said in your intro, a video analyst. If you'd have said 10 years ago, Morecambe FC is going to have a video analyst, we'd have been thinking, what's he sat at home watching video nasties for, you know? But So was this a job that you obviously you trained for it, you got it, but was it something that you were at school and thought, I want to do that, or how did this come about?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I mean, I would have always wanted to be a footballer. I was just never had the ability to be one. And then, yeah, at school, always had an interest in football and didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left school. So went to a few uni open days and decided to go into sports science just because of I was into sport. Didn't really have a specific career path I was going to look down to go into. And then I went to Liverpool John Moores University, and in my second year, I got a placement at Tranmere Rovers Football Club to work in their academy as an analyst. And even then, going into that, I wasn't really sure if that was what I wanted to go into. I was obviously aware of the role, but had no real sort of like direction in where I wanted to go. And just that experience has convinced me that this is sort of like the career path that I'd like to go down. Absolutely loved it there, and they had a really good setup. Their head of academy was great with me, and then they actually ended up having a restructuring of their academy, which meant that he lost his job, and I basically ended up taking over as the head of academy, and also helping out with the first team there. And it was a really interesting period because they were in the National League when I joined, and then the 2 seasons I was there, both got promotions at Wembley, beat Newport in extra time, which was
familiar.
Yeah. So that was yeah, had 2 good days against Newport. But no, yeah, like just really enjoyed my time there. And then from Tranmere, I ended up getting a job at a company called Football Radar, who they own Notts County Football Club and do the recruitment for them. So I was doing some work with them, helping Notts County recruit. And then from there, the job at Morecambe came up, and then yeah, went for that. And then luckily Derek took me on, and it's been great.
It's interesting that you went from Tranmere to Football Radar because, and this is something that we've touched upon in past episodes, in the fact that there are lots of people willing to work in football for peanuts. But then a couple of years down the line, you're like, well, I need to start getting a living wage here. So not being rough on Tranmere, but was that the case that they wanted somebody virtually for nothing?
Yeah. I mean, it was part-time. And yeah, I mean, I was doing my master's degree at the time, so I could sort of get away with it, balancing that with my studies. But yeah, I needed like a full-time job. And Football Radar just set up an office in Liverpool. So, I mean, it worked perfect for me. And then luckily got the job there. It was really good for me because obviously Tranmere, I got to see the football side of it all, and then Football Radar is more of like a data-based company. So sort of like I've seen the 2 extremes of it all really, and I realised football is where I want to be, like at an actual club, sort of working game to game. And then yeah, the Morecambe job just came up at the perfect time really.
So you were interviewed presumably by Derek.
Yeah.
Derek, who else?
So the first stage was just me and James, and then after that
James
it was James Wakefield. Then it was me, Derek, James again, and then Matt Rushton. Could have he'd been doing bits of the analysis on top of balancing his media stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it was the interview was great. It was a lot of work to do for it, but no, it was really good.
So you've been with us now. Well, am I right in saying you were saying the first game that you actually started with us was when we beat Manchester United in the Papa John's? Is that right?
Yeah, I think that was my first actual day, so can't take credit for that.
That's a good omen. And then again, you're the common denominator at Wembley because Newport losing extra time. So
I know. I've had 3 trips to Wembley and all 3, been successful. So.
So basically, did you press a button on John O'Sullivan and made him dive?
I can't say.
So it's so what happens with you day to day? How do you do your video analyst job? Do you collect all the stuff that gets sent to you and you just watch? Do you watch opponents and then you feed back to Stephen and Dermot? Do they come with specific things that they want you to pinpoint, like set pieces, or how does it work?
Yeah, so like a typical week would be obviously you have your game on your Saturday, which I'll be filming the match, and then also I'll have my laptop where I'm sort of like I'm clipping certain stuff from the game, certain stats, like whenever we enter, say, the final third, or if we enter the penalty area, I'll log it down. And stuff like that, like our key performance indicators that Stephen wants to look at, so like crosses into the box, like people running in behind. And then on a Monday after the game, we'll do a team meeting where we look at how we did on the weekend. So like, for example, well, today we've just gone over a Lincoln game from Tuesday, like going over what we did well, what we could have done better. And that's normally like a 10, 15-minute meeting with the players. And then as soon as that's done, the attention sort of focuses straight on the next game. So I'll put together a written report for the coaching staff on the opposition, going over sort of like how they'd set up their strengths, their weaknesses, like how we can hurt them. And then also put together a video presentation that we'll then show to the players the day before the game. And then so I'll work with Barry Roach and Dermot on the set plays. So we're all prepped on who are the main threats for the opposition and where we can sort of like expose them. And then John McMahon will be the one that I'll work with on our post-match, so after we play a game. So we've got different coaches designed for different areas that we're looking at.
So do you work 70 hours a week?
It is, yeah, it feels like that sometimes.
Everything you just said, I'm thinking, it's not enough hours in the day there, surely.
Although we try and get a week ahead of ourselves with opposition stuff. So like, I mean, we've got Wickham this on Saturday, but we're looking at Hartlepool already, sort of thing. So you try and just get as far ahead as you can because of, there's not, especially with these midweek games, there's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, so I suppose with you, with this sort of Saturday, Tuesday is a bit of a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, worst time of the year. Can't wait for Saturday.
If you come on in 12 months' time and you've lost 2 stone and all your hair, we know why.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hand you over to Joel now, and Joel will have some really interesting technical questions for you, no doubt. Or have I stolen your thunder again?
Dude, I quite like some of the questions you're asking, but I'll throw some. I'll throw a few more in there just for the yeah. So kind of first, obviously you were speaking about the opposition analysis you do. How many games? How much footage do you tend to watch of an opposition in the lead up to playing them?
So it tends to be, we look to watch 3 games, 2 to 3 games, but I mean, usually, like, we don't always say we'll watch it like all the way through. You might just watch like 60 minutes of one game, or like you might just then watch 30 minutes of one, 45 of the other. And we try and pick games where they're playing against a team similar to ourselves. Say if we're playing against a team that play a back 3 and they've played against other teams that play a back 3, we might not watch that because we're going to go for back 4. But yeah, it tends to be about 3 games. And then, from those 3 games you're watching, you're then trying to get it down to about 3-4 minutes of video to show to the players. So I think that's the toughest part.
Yeah, so is that kind of taking all that action in and then condensing it down into presentations? Because obviously, like you say, you need to deliver that kind of information to the players in kind of bite-sized chunks, don't you?
Yeah, that's the main thing. I mean, it's easy to sort of like get an idea of how a team plays, but it's how do you show that best? And yeah, I mean, you don't want to give the players like 10 minutes worth of clips before a game. It's just too much. So the longer I've been doing it, like the longer I've been an analyst, the more I've realised like the shorter they used to be. Like, used to do 6-minute videos. Now they're 4 minutes. Like now we try and get them down to like 3 minutes max. And set plays, we'll just do like a 1-minute video on them, just so it's really condensed, really good information for the players.
So talking of the players, do you ever have like much one-on-one kind of working with them, or is it all stuff you kind of feed into a report to the manager and then they go one-on-one with the players?
At the moment, it's more team-based in terms of like, so all the players, we give them all their game clips after the match, they'll all have so they can go watch them back on their phones, on laptops, or whatever. Don't tend to give the players stats or anything just because of stats can be misleading. So we just stick with the game clips, and then it doesn't tend to be one-on-one stuff. It more be like if we're realising certain trends as a coaching staff. Like, for example, we knew from the last block of 5 games we weren't putting crosses into the box. So then we'll do a meeting with the wingers and we'll show them clips of where, like, opportunities where they could have put the ball in, but maybe they turned and passed back. So we'll more do like specific unit work, whether that's like with the back 4, the midfielders, the forwards, rather than individual stuff.
So obviously you spoke about the crossing thing. I think that's something that Stevens. I think I can't remember if it was on here he mentioned it or if it was on the radio in both. So there we go. Actually tying up the podcast continuity there.
You won't hear that anywhere else.
I know, exactly. But yeah, so when it comes to working with the manager and those kind of game plans, does he come to you with briefs, or is it more you kind of being creative in your own right and finding things that the manager might not necessarily see himself?
So with this one, it was more Stephen just gave me the freedom to. So he told me when he came in, like he likes to work in blocks of 5, and sort of like he told me the benchmarks on what points we need and whatnot. But previously, working under Derek, we used to work in blocks of 11 games. So for him, I used to always put together like a 10-page report on how we'd done from those previous block of games. And then I hadn't really spoken through it with Stephen, but I ended up just the first block of 5 games giving him a report on our sort of like key performance indicators, how well we'd done, areas that could have done better. And then from that, I left him to sort of like read the information, take it on, and then he came back to me saying we'd have a discussion about it, and then we were like, okay, look, we need to improve on this. Let's go look at the footage and check if that backs it up, and then we'll put a video together for the players. But now we've sort of done it once. We already know like what sort of things we're going to be looking at going forward. So like it was easy now. We've looked at the crosses. We knew they weren't great, so we're going to continue to monitor that. And this last block of 5 games, we'll put more crosses in. And as you've seen from the goals we've scored, a lot of them came from crosses. So it's nice to see it come together.
So just, I know you might not be able to answer this one. Is there anything in particular that you're highlighting and working on, or is that a bit top secret?
No, I mean, it's a lot of the similar stuff. There's nothing. Today was like the first day we've been discussing it because we've only just finished the block. So there's nothing specific I can tell you at the moment. But
well, Gareth Ainsworth will be listening, so
yeah. We'll save it for next time.
Okay, no worries. Just one thing I want to touch on as well is in terms of recruitment. Do you have much of a role to play in that?
So my sort of role in the recruitment process is to use the data as sort of like a filtering tool in terms of. So before when Derek was here, I was already working on stuff for the summer, and then obviously he left, and then Stephen came in, so we sort of used some of the stuff that I'd had already done. But it's more just like we'll highlight a bunch of players, and then we'll use the data to filter them out. So instead of giving them a list of 100 names, you give a list of 10 names per se, and then we'll look at the footage in detail. But for me, it would just be, say, I'll just get told we need to find this sort of position, this sort of profile of player. Then you look at the data and you bring up a short list. And then the rest of the coaching staff will sort of explore that a lot further. So, yeah, I'm basically just acting as a filtering tool at the moment.
Yeah, so that they give you characteristics X, Y, and Z from a player. You go out and turn the massive long list into a short list with 10, and then, like you say, then they go through it fully on their own.
Yeah, I'll just present like some stats with them, and then we'll get the video off Y-Scout, and we'll just go through it as a staff. I think that's the best process because, I mean, I don't think I'd ever sign a player just based on stats because there's always a story behind it. Like some players might have great stats, but that's because they only come on for the last 10 minutes when the game's like a basketball match. So you need to take it into context. And Stephen's really good at understanding like the data and what's good and what's not. So yeah, it's been really good.
It's I'm glad you said that because with the questions that Joel's asked, and I noticed he raised his eyebrows when you said you can't take stats as everything, and Joel's eyebrows went like that.
No, he's absolutely right. It's all about context. You can't just ever take it on its own. You've got to put it into context.
Yeah, that's right. And so really, what it's doing, you're doing if you like, you're doing a filtering process, aren't you? You're taking that and digging a little bit deeper and finding out, okay, this person's got really good stats. So it's not quite Moneyball. It's not quite Moneyball because the simple fact is you can probably do that with baseball stats, but you can't with football because there's too many variables. Because baseball, you're either a pitcher, a catcher, or a batter. Whereas football, you've got 22 different positions, all doing different things. So I think it's a good point you make that, because I was just about to ask you, because obviously you can't take the stats as everything, because if you did, you'd end up with people with great stats and probably half a decent team.
Yeah, 100%. I think you've got to understand that quite quickly when getting into a role. Kind of one, you won't get the respect of the coaching staff if you're sort of there saying a player's not great, and then you're like, no, he's great, he's got great stats. You've got to sort of understand why players are like they are. And it's not just like the stats when you're looking at recruitment, it's like injury history, stuff like that. There's always a reason behind things.
And it's interesting because obviously, having spoken to Stephen and Dermot, they're interested in the person. They're very interested in the person themselves. What are they like? Will they fit in? Will they fit in with the squad? And Stephen mentioned when he was on that they look for people who are, what are they like in the dressing room? Are they somebody who, if he's not being picked, he starts sniping and stuff like that? And that's something else you've got to consider, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's one of the things we've done really well. If you look at the squad this year, I mean, 19 new players, and there's already that team spirit. I mean, we had the same last year, like it was a really great team spirit, and we've done it again this year. So, I think that's a really important thing to look into, and that's where the gaffer's contacts come in great, because he's able to ring people up and you find out what they're actually like as a person. You can't get that off the stats.
I suppose that's how they tie in, isn't it? Because you give them that shorter list, so instead of having to ring around about 20 players or whatever, he only has to ring around about 5 or 6 to really kind of dig down on that, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Like, the data's just got to be used as a time-saving tool, really, because of, like you said, there's not enough hours in the day to get all the work done. So any sort of shortcuts you can make is better.
It's interesting that you said that, Harry, because obviously at the moment it's pretty easy to please everybody because we've got that many people in the sick bay. But sort of when they all get back fit after Christmas, there might be a few rumblings, and it'll be interesting to sort of see how that works out, won't it? Because obviously at the moment everybody's getting a game because we've got that many 6, 5, 6, 7 maybe because of injuries and suspensions who are not involved. But obviously that can change, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a very competitive squad. I mean, you could literally almost, like, when everyone's fit, you could put up 2 11s and they'd both be just as competitive as the other. And it's just about the players, like how hungry are they, how much do they want to improve, and they'll be the ones that do well. And then, I think we've got a really good group we've put together.
Well, that's certainly an insight for me. It was sort of like, if I'm being honest, it was about a quarter of what I thought you were going to say. So that's really good, because from that point, but I'm sure Joel's got another 50 questions now, but we've got to move on. I'll come to Rod now. Rod, we've had some fun and games this week. I wasn't a little bit disappointed, but I'm going to say, I was putting people right that we hadn't dropped below 3,700 for a home crowd, and then obviously Tuesday night Lincoln brought 241, which is great for them on a Tuesday night. It's a long way getting home at 3 o'clock in the morning, but we just did 3,400, which is still a fantastic crowd by any means. And I thought it was funny that I went on Lincoln's forum, which I'm sure Joel has, and they were sort of like mocking the conference style crowd of 3,400. So I had to point out that taking 241, we took more to St Albans in the conference than they brought to us in League One. I don't know if they like that because I haven't been back on yet. So, but it's true. We took about 250, 260 at St Albans when we were in the conference on a Tuesday night. So it's like, they were taking the mix in. We're a big club, but attendance-wise, you've got to be happy, haven't you?
Oh, it's been tremendous, David. You're looking at 2,600 season tickets, up to Tuesday night, an average crowd of 4-2. And that done in quite a steep trajectory, really. It was a gamble with the season tickets, but I think we're giving great value for money. They're affordable. There's the atmosphere. I think now we've broken that hurdle of the atmosphere at the Mazuma, which has taken a long time coming. It's been a while to really make it home, apart from the odd game. But I think we've done that now, and fair play to the fans. I take my hat off to them. I think they've been absolutely superb, and good to see the main stand joining in with some of the chanting and banter as well, because that is so important.
Yeah, you were in the main stand. I hope you were singing, Joel, the other night.
I was having a little bit of what I can boogie. I was getting on with a bit of that.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because, like you say, Rod, it was a gamble with the season tickets, but it's definitely paid off. It's improved the atmosphere. As you said, I think we finally laid the ghost of Christie Park to rest. Because you can't say the football hasn't been entertaining and you can't say the atmosphere hasn't been fantastic. But looking at that, did you expect to sell 2,600 or did you think we'd settle for 2,000?
No, we didn't expect to do that. It's exceeded all of our predictions and hopes, and long may it continue. And the interesting thing is, of course, people who maybe haven't been to watch Morecambe for a number of years, or even new converts, the feedback that's coming through, and the town seems to be buzzing, the locality's taking it on board, very positive feedback. And if people are on the hook, they're going to stick with it. Now, I'm not saying in good times and bad, because David, we've been there, haven't we? We've been there, we've seen it, and right now there's a real momentum from behind the scenes and on the park and with supporters. So, it's engaging with that. It's making sure that we continue with that. And I've got to say, we're really encouraged. And we're serving chips.
Yeah, I know. But my wife's she's got a season ticket for the first time ever, and she's had pies for 3 games, and then she's gone on to chips. And the next home game, she's going to try chips and curry sauce.
Very good. I'm a bit disappointed she's not showing her face tonight, David, actually.
Yeah, well, yeah, she's better looking than me.
No, I'm going to say we could have had when Harry met Sally.
Good setup, like that one. Yeah, you've put me off my scent now. But I think the other change that's happened, and it's been noticeable, is that obviously Ben and Ryan, very professional and hard workers. People like Harry doing what they do. We're a League One club now, and our presence online and our presence in the local media and our presence, it's improved tenfold. And obviously that's down to things like, Dave Salmon does his podcasts. We do our podcasts. The club very kindly are sharing our podcast, which is fantastic. But they're putting out so much stuff on Facebook, etc., etc. Nobody can say they're not informed anymore, and that leads me nicely to the hoo-ha we've had about coaches going to Wickham this week, because obviously Charlie at the Boardwalk was putting him on, got his fingers burnt at Crewe because people let him down and a coach let him down, and it cost him money. And there was a massive backlash this week, and I can understand why, because people are now trying to buy in and go to away games. And that's where you and the directors, I'm giving you a chance to shine here, Rod, because as usual, you saw this problem and you've tried to put it right.
Well, there's a responsibility there as well, David. Travel that the club puts on, official travel, has to subscribe to the laws of the land, and so that's very simple. Up to now, right now, as we speak, we've 20 people booked on a 53-seater coach tonight. Now, I think that's going to improve tomorrow, but we've made our stance on it. Me and some colleagues have said we'd underpin the finances of that, and we will. But what I want to do beyond all this, I feel for Charlie Edward, because I think he got some unfair criticism early in the week, and he had been bitten by that. And as somebody who's looking at away fans and sponsoring the coaches, he shouldn't be absolutely losing money hand over fist like he was. But I think there's a bigger agenda here. I think what we've got to do is sit down. We've got to engage with the trust. We've got to engage with the supporters groups and get the act together. Now, I'm not saying that you and I know that there have been the Sardines or Terry's Travel or whatever. They do it their way, and I certainly haven't got an issue with that. That they've done that for years and years, and fair play to them. carry on with that. Absolutely. You know, we don't want to miss in Mustafas on a Saturday night, do we? That would be terrible. But beyond that, we've got to, as a club, I think we've got a responsibility and almost a duty of care to engage with other groups and individuals and ensure that people can get to football matches away from home safely within the law and enjoy the experience and make it economically viable as well for both parties, the people booking on and the football club.
I agree with you completely. I think partly the issue, and I think the clever thing you've done is said that there will be somebody stewarding the coaches.
Yep.
Or the coach, which I think that needs to be done because obviously the situation, I'm aware that, you know, Charlie, as you said, he got his fingers burnt, but, you know, he was there sometimes and sometimes he wasn't to run it. And therein lies the problem. If there's nobody there actually supervising, things can get out of hand. And I've seen it myself. And like, you know, we've got a lot of enthusiastic young lads. And they are boisterous and they do want to drink and what have you. And like somebody quite cleverly said on Facebook, that's fine. You know, the coach sets off an hour earlier. You can go for a couple of pints before the games. That's the way it works. But we have to adhere to the laws of the land, as you said, don't we?
David, you cannot carry alcohol on a coach going to a sporting event, and you cannot drink it. You know, it's very clear. Legislation's there. There's no doubt about it. I'm going to travel on the coach on Saturday morning. I can't get on the team coach tomorrow because I've other things to do. So I'm going to travel on the coach. Eddie Weldrake's going to travel on the coach, and maybe another colleague as well. So we want to share that experience. We want to make it right, and I think that is really important. But we also want to give fans an opportunity to get to these away games, to get to the grounds, to give the lads the support, which is the be-all and end-all for me. That's what it's all about. It's not about, you know, Rod Taylor or Charlie Appleyard or Graham House. It's not about that. It's about those fans getting that experience, going to the games and supporting the boys on the park.
Amen to that, man. I hope, this will be out by sort of, probably late tomorrow morning, Joel. This will be out.
Yeah, it'll be out first thing, hopefully.
If you listen to this and you fancy going to Adams Park, you can still book on till about, is it 3 o'clock, Rod?
3 o'clock, yeah. And you can buy your ticket down there on the day. So
yeah,
although our tickets are off sale now, you can buy it on the day. It's not an issue at all.
So that ties it up nicely with our last point of discussion on this podcast, which is obviously the game at Adams Park on Saturday. Gareth Ainsworth, longest-serving manager. He's got a particular way of playing, Joel, and he's stuck to his guns over the years, and it's worked for him, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, you see the success they've had. Obviously, initially going up from League Two, and then all the way into the Championship, which they weren't too far. I mean, they were relegated by a couple of points in the end, but considering I think many people had them down for kind of finishing rock bottom and miles away from anything. So I think they only got relegated by something like 2 or 3 points. So they did quite well overall. And, they've started this season pretty well. I think, there will be roundabout up there. So, yeah, I think Stephen Robinson said it already in an interview this week. It probably is going to be one of our toughest games of the season. But, I think we've improved since playing the likes of Rotherham earlier this season, who were comfortably the best team I think we've played. And, I think, hopefully those improvements will help us put in a good performance on Saturday.
Harry, you've been watching the videos. They do have a particular way of playing, and it hasn't really changed much over the years. So we probably do know what to expect, don't we?
Yeah, we know it's going to be a really tough game. We know they can be quite direct, and they've mixed sort of a back three and a back four, so we think they'll go with a back three, but I don't think they're as good as Rotherham from what I've seen. But like Joel said, they're going to be right up there in the season. But we're positive. We've got 7 points from last 9. We're going to be full of confidence, and hopefully we can get a good result.
And coming to you, Rod, are you going to put your steward's uniform on the coach?
Can't discuss it, David. Looking at
Superhero's outfit then.
Yeah. Looking at the last 5 games, we both played two losses each, 2 wins each, and a draw each. So, that's quite a nice precursor to the game, isn't it? There's a lot to play for. Hey, and you and I were down at Adams Park many years ago in the FA Trophy, of course. So, you know, and that was adventure then, David, for goodness sake.
I could tell you a fantastic story about Andy Green, but I can't.
Well, I know the story. But listen, the grass isn't always greener.
Oh yeah, true enough. Very true.
Can I just finish on one thing, David? As you know, we put a Goodbye Little Old Morecambe document out a few months ago. That wasn't just words, that's a work in progress. And Charlie and James have updated that. So we are looking at the future now. We are working on this all the time. It is a work in progress. It's a working document. There's a hell of a lot going into it. And, you know, from where we were, you know, getting Ben on board. I mean, getting Ben on board has it eased my life so much. I can't tell you how much. And he's committed. He's got great ideas. We've started 3 new staff within the stadium this week. There's a lot going on, a lot that we can't project immediately, but we will do. And I think people will see the changes, as you rightly said, just projecting, you know, onto the social media platforms. That's been a real positive. And, you know, when Matt, it's not a criticism of Matt, because when Matt was there, he was doing 2 jobs, 2 massive jobs. So to split that, you know, Harry's concentrating on the analysis side, and then we've got Ryan, and come on, I call him Harry. I've got Harry in my head now, and you know, doing what we need to do to get the message out there, and that is so important. Matt's his name. That is so important because.
I wondered if you meant Matt. I didn't want to say.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean Matt, but coming out of Gillingham, I was pulling his leg and I called him Harry. And I've been calling him Harry ever since. And now I've got to think what I'm really saying on it, just to wind him up.
Well, I would say that it's all right. Joel will edit it out, but he won't.
No, I'm not bothered. It's absolutely, you know me, David, it's absolutely fine. But I'm just trying to get the point across that there are things happening all the time, massively, on the catering side, on the hospitality side. You know, getting a roof behind that Barticard terrace, it is happening and it will happen. Just taking a little bit longer than we thought now, but it will happen. A lot of good things going on.
It's a good job it will happen, because I'm stood there and I don't want to get wet. And I shall give you, after last week's revelation from Charlie that he wants mushy peas, not processed peas, that didn't change. I like processed peas, I don't care. But I will get my wife to give you a critique of the chips and curry sauce at the next time I see you.
No problem at all. So,
thank you to Rod, Chief Executive, Harry. Now, strange this, isn't it? Strange this. Rod Taylor, Harry Taylor. Nepotism rules, chaps. No,
we've got Graham House and Oliver House, haven't we?
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, true. This is what you got to look forward to, Harry. Losing your hair and going. Listen, thank you very much,
David, and also through the gates, we've nearly got a full house.
Yeah. Boom. Yes, true enough. Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday. Happy days. So that's it. Thank you for listening or watching. It's been another eventful edition. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back next week to give you a critique of the 3-0 win at Wycombe. When we need Harry back on to tell us where we went right. And obviously Joel will have some important questions for a guest who Charlie likes to keep secret till the last minute. So this has been Shrimp's Trust, the ShrimpsNet. I hope you've enjoyed it. Join us again next week.